Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I am back with part 3 of What If Deku Could Manipulate Friction. And, well, let me give a quick shout out to my boy Saint, and for the music, obviously, and also I want to say again, thank you so much for 15,000 subscribers. It is actually insane, and the growth rate that we've had on this channel, it just keeps going up and up and up. I won't waste any more of your time, and let's just get into the what if. Let's get it. The USJ is now over. The thoughts of, well, villainy run rampant within UA now. So they decide to, well, give the students a small break to see if they can fortify, well, UA a little bit more. But there's some things that are coming up. Some things that will show these villains that they're not done yet. That they're not going to lie down and just, well, give up. Not at all. After their small break, the UA Sports Festival is announced. Izuku is actually the class representative for the UA Sports Festival, and after all the classes are called to the field, he walks up to give his speech. He begins saying that he knows that this time right now is a struggle. Some students may be afraid, some may be, well, more motivated than ever, and he's part of the latter. He wants to motivate himself, his classmates, and everyone else to push themselves to the point where they know they can defeat any villain that stands in front of them. But for now, they're gonna show off their abilities and, well, have fun doing it, and that he hopes everyone enjoys. Everyone begins cheering on, and he runs back down. Amora says that it was an amazing speech, and Bakugo kind of scoffs, saying that he would have done it better if he got first. Izuku kind of smiles and says, "Well, you didn't get first. Maybe try harder next time." "What'd you say to me, you damn nerd?" Izuku continues to laugh, and so does Amora, and, well, the wheel is then began to get spun by, well, pro hero Midnight. They waited for it to land, and finally it did. And the first thing that came up was an obstacle course race. A large smirk grew over Izuku's face, thinking that this will be, well, very, very easy. And frankly, he's right. With his quirk, it is perfect for this type of race. So they all line up and get ready to go, and when Midnight counts them down and allows them to run, they all run to a corridor in which, well, Shoto Todoroki, the son of Endeavor himself, covers the entire place in ice. Izuku can easily get out of this though. Everything, he controls friction entirely. He's not gonna be slipping, he's not gonna be stuck, and he'll be right by Todoroki while everyone else is more or less stuck in place for at least a couple seconds. Izuku is keeping up with Todoroki, and they're kind of battling for first place initially, but Izuku smiles and sees a giant robot ahead and says that he thinks it's time for him to pull away. Izuku goes sprinting as fast as possible, zooming past the robot, and actually chops both the robot's legs, more or less stunning the robot using a manipulation of friction, tripping the robot. This forces the other contestants to more or less slow down by a good amount. Izuku keeps going and eventually gets to this giant ravine in which he literally just runs over. He makes more or less small pockets of air and he just runs on top of them, eventually getting past the ravine to a giant minefield, in which, unfortunately for the story, is kind of boring. I mean, frankly, Izuku manipulating friction here is the least of it. He can just run straight over it. He's very fast, and frankly, if he wanted to truly, he could step over it using the same thing he did with the ravine, and it would be very, very simple. So Izuku gets first place in the obstacle course race by a long shot. Everyone else proceeded to finish up, and Izuku was, well, just there waiting. eventually leading to the spin of the wheel one more time. And when it spins, it actually lands on something called Capture the Flag. Capture the Flag deals with 4 different flags. Every flag is more or less a ticket to the next round. And well, if you have one of those flags, you have the ticket. But if you have all of them, you automatically win the UA Sports Festival. Midnight continues to explain, and everyone gets ready. The flags are placed in the 4 flags are placed in the very center of the arena, and she counts them down. 1, 2, 3, go! They all race after the flags, and Izuku quickly is able to grab one, and well, so is Amora. Shoto Todoroki sends his ice at the rest of the people to grab one as well, with Bakugo not too far behind, blasting forward to grab one. But that's the easy part. Now is the hard part, maintaining the flag as long as possible. Well, Izuku decides to run around for a bit, just avoiding people as much as possible, trying to just maintain his flag. He has a plan for the last about 2 minutes of the event, but he wants to make sure he doesn't tire himself out immediately. So he tries his best to basically maintain his speed, friction, and other things like that, because his manipulation of, well, obviously friction does have a toll on his body. He has certain ways of getting around it, but to a certain extent, it really drains his stamina. So he just avoids people as much as possible. That's until he hears someone talking right behind him. You know, your quirk is interesting, Izuku Midoriya. Very interesting. Izuku dashes away and actually responds to the voice, but immediately falls under a deep, well, it seems like stasis, and he can't move. He can hear his own thoughts, but he can't really do anything. It's all a blur. He hands the flag over to the boy by the name of Shinso, and Shinso smiles. But luckily, Izuku knows this boy's quirk now. He just needs to somehow break free of this mind control. And this would occur very quickly. Amora comes flying down out of nowhere and bumps into Izuku and slaps the back of his head. Izuku immediately jolts awake as if that's all it took for him to get out of the mind control. Amora smiles and flies away, saying that don't say that she's never done anything for him. He smiles back and he dashes back at Shinso. Shinso, not realizing Izuku is currently out of the mind control or the brainwashing, he gets the flag taken away from him instantly. Midoriya looks at him and basically puts his fingers over his lips, saying that there's no more talking, that his quirk is not useful anymore. Midoriya decides that it's time to, well, take matters into his own hands, so he basically makes solid air above him, jumping on top of it all the way until he was safe, and he makes a small seat in the sky and sits there. He remarks to himself that this is the boring way of going about it, but sometimes you have to do what you gotta do. And eventually leading to Izuku, well, passing through the Capture the Flag event. Amora also passes, Katsuki Bakugo, and that's it. Actually, Bakugo took it upon himself to make sure that he had 2 flags. He wanted to prove to Izuku and, well, this other girl that he was the strongest, that he should have been the class representative, and that everything up to this point has been luck. Bakugo is stronger than both of them, and he'll prove it right now. Midnight begins saying that she loves the determination, and that just for the sake of, well, Bakugo, they'll do a free-for-all. 1 versus 1 versus 1 for the winner of the UA Sports Festival. Everybody begins to cheer, and after a small break, the 3 of them are standing on the stage facing each other. Izuku knows the threats. He knows how strong Bakugo is, and frankly, Amora could eliminate them instantly if she had perfect control over her quirk. Izuku is trying to brainstorm ways of going about this. How should he defeat them? What is the easiest, fastest, and most effective way of going about this? And who will be their main target, or his main target? The countdown begins, and midnight tells them to fight. Izuku immediately dashes toward Amora, tapping her on the shoulder, freezing her more or less in place, immediately sky kicking Bakugo, but Bakugo knew this was coming. He knew that he would try to, nullify the quirk of more or less Amora and then eliminate Bakugo quickly. But Bakugo knew what was about to happen. He quickly blasts himself sideways, dodging Izuku, crashing back into him. Bakugo punches him in the face and blasts him in the chest, remarking that if he can keep the fight close, Izuku won't win. Izuku smiles and begins to dodge, asking where he believes that. Izuku hits him in the chest with a punch and then sweeps him. Out of nowhere, Bakugo begins sliding. He can't control it, but as he's about to basically be pushed out of bounds, he blasts himself back in, kicking Izuku, using his frictionless body at the moment to, propel himself at insane speeds. Izuku is flung out of the ring, but luckily he's able to catch himself and gets a foothold mid-air with more or less solid air. Amora then breaks free of this, frictionful state and attacks Izuku, making it so the gravity begins to be super intense on him while he's trying to get his foothold mid-air outside the ring. He tries to pressure himself back up and can't get it. He can't. He's holding on for practically dear life at this point. Bakugo sees an opportunity, blasting himself over and tries to blast Izuku downward, and he does just that. But he left himself vulnerable to the gravity manipulation by Amora. She quickly makes his gravity insanely powerful, slamming Bakugo out of bounds, in which she believes she just won. But when Izuku crashed to the ground, he solidified the air right above it and was able to save himself just in time. Immediately, sparks, lightning, and everything around them begins to shake. He gets on one knee and smirks. Friction manipulation. Godspeed. Izuku is immediately in front of Amora, and he immediately kicks her out of the ring, and she's barely able to save herself. But the speed of Izuku is immense. He's immediately above her while she's out of bounds and kicks her down. She pushes as hard as possible so that she can keep herself from hitting the ground, but Izuku is, there once again in an instant, kicking her at the wall, and she falls on the ground as he jumps back to the ring. He collapses from pain because, he's only used this in training. He's never used it at full force, and frankly, he's only used it for a single attack. But it doesn't matter. Izuku Midoriya is announced the winner of the UA Sports Festival. But Izuku realizes something. The gap that he thought was so wide between everybody in his class, the fact that he thought that he was that far ahead of everybody else, made him complacent. Everybody else must have been training. Bakugo, Amora, and frankly, even Todoroki. He knows that he didn't make it this far, but he can tell the determination in Todoroki's eyes. The USJ made them into better heroes, and he realized that he would need to try his best to keep up with his class before he would fall behind. But with that thought in mind, All Might congratulates them for, making the top 3 of the UA Sports Festival, with Izuku at number 1, Amora at number 2, and Bakugo at a close number 3. He scoffs, saying that he'll make sure to get number 1 next time, but he doesn't even throw a fit. He's actually more determined than ever. He might be behind right now, but he won't be behind forever. He'll push himself to the limit, push himself to the point where he'll be stronger than everybody in this school. And well, the entire crowd cheers all three of them on, saying that it was one amazing battle. Well, the day is then over, and well, the next day then arrives, and Aizawa begins explaining to them what is to come. He begins explaining something by the name of internships. Listen up. Internships are complicated. Everything you did in the UA Sports Festival matters now. So, let's keep that in mind. Now here are the people that got the most out of everybody. Aizawa shows that Shoto actually got number 1, Izuku with a close second, Amora, then Bakugo, and then everyone else kind of peters off from there. And Aizawa explains that they will have till the end of the day to choose where they want to go. Choose where they want to spend their internships. In which Izuku is excited about this. He's not sure who he wants to go to quite yet, but he knows that he should go to someone that will benefit him the most. What is his biggest weakness? What does he personally need to, well, bring his game to the next level? He begins looking through all his requests, searching more and more until he finds it. He finds the exact person he wants to go to. And well, she is very strong in her own right. He marks it down and gives it to Aizawa, and Aizawa smirks, saying that he knows his own strengths and weaknesses, and that this should push him over the next hump, you could say. Izuku nods, and Amora turns, well, hers in as well, and Aizawa looks at her. You know, this is an interesting choice. It's actually the same as your buddy over here. Izuku looks at her and she asks if he chose Mirako as well, and he nods, saying that he needs to work on his hand-to-hand combat, that it's lacking, or at least according to him. Raw speed and, well, more or less just techniques won't be just enough. His manipulation of friction could be, well, 10 times stronger if he knew more martial arts and how to use his legs more properly. Amora says that he does just fine, but Izuku says that all of that is just based on stuff he's seen, but nothing is technically flawless. That's what he wants from Mirako. He wants a sense of perfection. This idea that he could not use his quirk and kick somebody in the face properly. He kind of laughs about this, and Aizawa more or less nods at both of them. After some time passes, they're allowed to, well, head home. But the next day will be an important one. The day they head to their internships. And when that day arrives, Amora and Izuku head over together. And when they arrive at the internship, they are greeted by pro hero Mirako. And she immediately tells them that it's time for training, that she's seen the sports festival and she was impressed, but they lack the combat skills they need to take their hero work to the next level. And if they want to be true pro heroes, that's what matters. So Mirako begins to train them in any martial arts she knows and her fighting style in general. And Izuku is able to mimic this very well. Actually, extremely well, and he realizes that this is very helpful for him. Amora is struggling a little bit more than Izuku. Obviously, she doesn't have as much training as Izuku went through, but she begins getting the hang of it. After some time, Mirako feels comfortable with where they're standing. She then tells them that it's time to, well, take their training to the next level, and that they'll be heading to Hosu City for some hero patrols. And well, if danger is to come, she expects them to be on their toes and ready for a fight. They both nod and agree with her, so they take the nearest bus and head over. They both ask why they don't just take one of her personal cars, but she says that that's lame and that interacting with people is part of the job. They all agree, or both of them agree, and they head over to Hosu City. When they arrive, everything seems normal. That's until screams can be heard in the distance and a massive fire breaks out. This isn't good. This is not what they expected. Hosu City was supposed to be a patrol for them to learn, but this is throwing them directly into the fire. Luckily though, Izuku and Amora have quirks that are built to more or less save people at insane speeds. Amora has a gravity quirk that she can more or less float people out of the way, and Izuku obviously can manipulate friction in a way that he can speed people in and out of certain situations, so this is extremely helpful. But during this entire sequence, Izuku realizes something. He hears something in a nearby alley and even speaks to Mirko about it, saying that there's something going on right over there. He points toward it and Mirko begins to investigate with them as they hear a voice that would instill terror into many, a voice that would scare people away as soon as they heard it. He has a blade within someone's, back of their neck, and ended 2 pro heroes' lives. Or at least that's what Izuku thought initially, until he saw the face of the boy that he was standing on. The hero killer Stain had a blade in the back of Tenya Ida's neck, the boy that was part of his class. Izuku immediately dashed forward and Mirko called out to him saying to not make a move, but Izuku wasn't listening anymore. He didn't want to see anybody else, frankly, get hurt. He immediately kicked Stain in the guts, sending him flying at basically insane speeds because of how fast he was running. Mirko decided to, take this advantage, kicking Stain while he's in the wall and injuring him badly. Stain wasn't necessarily expecting this and wasn't necessarily expecting the speed of Izuku Midoriya. Stain tries to stand up and fight, but as he charges forward, Amora uses her gravity manipulation, slamming him to the ground as Mirko finishes him off with a kick to the head. Izuku looks at Stain's unconscious body and is sad. He's sad that they couldn't get here sooner. He's so fast. He is extremely quick, but how could he let this happen? When things like this happen and you're fast enough to stop it, is it your fault? Izuku has been thinking this for a while. He's saved Amora, dashed in, grabbed her out of the harm's way, but he wasn't able to save Tenya. He wasn't able to save one of his other classmates. And will this haunt him? Will this make him question herohood? Will this make him question himself being in hero society? Well, we don't know. And that will come up in the next part. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions. And before y'all say it, I know my voice is a little weird. I'm not sick, I don't think, but I didn't get much sleep, and then I don't know, it's a long story. Maybe we can talk about it on another live stream soon, but I didn't get much sleep, so that's why my voice is like this. But I had to get a video out for y'all. I wanted to. I love making videos for y'all. I want to make that completely clear. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.